The house was quiet in the way only new parents understand, not peaceful, just carefully balanced. Every sound mattered. The soft hum of the ceiling fan. The distant traffic from the city road below. The tiny, uneven breaths coming from the crib beside our bed. I stood there for a moment, watching my baby sleep. His chest rose and fell in slow rhythm, one small fist curled near his cheek. A warm yellow lamp lit the room, throwing gentle shadows on the walls we had painted together just months ago. I pulled the blanket up a little higher, the way I always did, as if that small act could protect him from the world. Motherhood had changed time for me. Nights bled into mornings. Sleep came in pieces. My body ached in places I didn't know existed, but my heart felt full. Tired, yes. Overwhelmed, absolutely. But content behind me, my husband leaned against the doorway, scrolling on his phone. "You've been standing there for 5 minutes, he said softly, a small smile tugging at his lips. "He's fine. Go get ready." I turned to him and smiled back. I trusted that smile. I trusted him. "My mother called," I said, lowering my voice even though the baby was asleep. "Her fever's back. I'll just check on her and come straight back." He nodded without hesitation. "Don't rush. I've got everything here." That was our life, simple, shared, familiar. We didn't have much, but we had routines. Love lived in those routines. Late-night feedings. Quiet dinners. Shared exhaustion that felt almost romantic in its own strange way. I slipped on my shawl, the air outside already cooling as evening settled over the city. From the window, I could see the neighboring apartments, lights flickering on one by one. Somewhere, a vendor called out, his voice echoing faintly. Life went on, ordinary and steady. Before leaving, I checked the baby monitor, the small screen glowing softly on the bedside table. The camera showed the crib, the blanket, my child sleeping peacefully. I didn't think twice. Why would I? At the door, my husband kissed my forehead. "Drive safe," he said. "I will," I replied, already reaching for my keys. Sparkles, if you're enjoying this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share for more emotional tales. Sparkles. I had no idea that this normal night, this quiet, loving moment, was about to become the last time my life felt whole. I stepped out into the hallway and pulled the door shut behind me, careful not to let it click too loudly. The corridor lights flickered the way they always did, casting long shadows on the tiled floor. Somewhere down the building, a child laughed, and a radio played an old song I remembered from my childhood. Everything felt ordinary, almost boring in its familiarity. I paused near the stairs, digging through my bag for my phone, when something tugged gently at my mind. The baby monitor. For a brief second, I pictured it sitting on the bedside table, its small green light glowing steadily, the camera still angled toward the crib. Normally, before leaving, I turned it off without thinking. It was muscle memory. But tonight, in the rush of worry for my mother and the exhaustion clinging to my bones, I hadn't. I hesitated, my hand hovering over my phone as if I might turn back. Then I laughed quietly at myself. "It doesn't matter," I murmured under my breath. Why would it? My husband was home. The baby was asleep. The monitor wasn't some secret camera, it was just a tool for tired parents. Besides, I trusted him. Completely. He had never given me a reason not to. Trust, I believed, was the strongest thing holding our marriage together. I unlocked my car and slid into the driver's seat. The familiar scent of fabric freshener filled the air, and the dashboard lights blinked awake. As I reversed, I caught a glimpse of our apartment window above, dark, calm, safe. My phone buzzed. A message from my husband, "Call me when you reach. I'll keep an eye on him." I smiled and typed back, "Of course. Don't stay up too late." The road stretched ahead, glowing under the streetlights. Shops were closing, shutters rolling down with metallic thuds. A tea stall on the corner was still open, steam rising into the cool night air as men gathered with small glass cups, laughing loudly. Life continued, unaware of the fragile thread it was resting on. As I drove, my thoughts stayed with my baby, whether he'd wake up crying, whether he'd miss me, whether my mother would be okay. I thought about everything except the one thing that should have worried me. The monitor. Miles away from home, with the city humming around me, I had no idea that a quiet device I had forgotten to switch off was still awake. Still listening. Still watching. And soon, it would speak, just not in the way I ever imagined. The drive had been smooth, the streets lined with golden pools of streetlight reflecting off the wet asphalt from the earlier drizzle. My mind had been halfway on my mother's condition, halfway on the soft warmth of our baby sleeping back at home. I parked outside her small, cluttered house, the scent of boiling soup and wet earth drifting through the open window. I unlocked my phone to text my husband, but a notification popped up first, a sound I almost didn't recognize. It was the baby monitor. I swiped to open it, expecting to see the usual still image of our sleeping child. But the moment I pressed play, I heard it, a faint static crackle that made me tilt the phone closer, straining to focus. I smiled softly, half amused, half reassured. Probably just interference, I muttered, my voice catching slightly in the cool night air. The baby monitor sometimes picked up stray sounds from neighboring apartments. But then, there was laughter. A high, unfamiliar laugh, light and teasing, cutting through the usual monotony of baby coos and nighttime hums. My heart skipped. I leaned back against the car door, eyes scanning the empty street, even though I knew it had nothing to do with where I sat. Who is that? I whispered to myself, confusion creeping in like a slow fog. At first, I thought maybe a neighbor had stopped by, or perhaps the monitor had picked up voices from outside. The laughter continued, paired with the low murmur of a male voice. My chest tightened. It didn't sound like my husband talking to a friend, it was intimate, casual, unguarded in a way that immediately set off alarms. I froze, gripping the phone tighter. The sound was clear now, unmistakable. The male voice was hers, the laughter confirmed it, and it was directed at him, not the baby. Shoo, not so loud, the voice teased, though my phone's microphone carried a sultry undertone I could never imagine in my quiet, dependable home. I blinked. My stomach sank. My mind refused to process it at first. How could this be happening? I had left for 10 minutes. 10 harmless, ordinary minutes. The baby was supposed to be the only one awake under our roof. Yet here it was, an unexpected intrusion into everything I believed I knew about my husband, my home, my life. My fingers trembled against the phone as the laughter continued, mingling with words I wasn't meant to hear. The ordinary night I had left behind was already unraveling. Somewhere in the distance, a dog barked. A rickshaw honked. Life carried on outside, ordinary and unknowing, while inside my heart, a seed of unease had firmly taken root. I didn't want to believe it, but deep down, I already knew that nothing would ever feel the same again. I pressed the phone closer to my ear, my breath catching as the voices became clearer. At first, I tried to rationalize it, maybe it was a joke, a misunderstanding, but then I heard him. My husband. The warmth in his voice that usually comforted me at the end of long days was gone, replaced by a casual familiarity he had never shown me. I can't stand this anymore, he said, almost laughing, but there was a sharp edge underneath. She doesn't understand anything. She's always tired, always worrying, it's like I married someone I don't even know. My fingers went numb. I gripped the phone so tightly that I feared I might crush it. The laughter from the other end, soft, teasing, was a dagger in my chest. It was deliberate, intimate. The way they spoke together, it was like I had never existed in his life. You don't have to tell me, the woman murmured. I know you feel it. Yes, he admitted, almost a whisper, but there was a weight in his words. I've been lying for months. Pretending everything's fine, smiling at home, all while feeling trapped. I hate that I can't be honest with her. Hate. That word. I felt it punch through me, hotter than anything I could have imagined. Trapped. Pretending. Months of lies laid bare in real time on a device I had almost ignored. The baby monitor's camera may have been silent, but the voices etched themselves into my mind. Every syllable replayed in slow motion. The man I loved, the father of my child, speaking with unguarded ease to another woman. Revealing feelings he never once shared with me. Complaining about me, my care, my sleepless nights, my small anxieties, things I had believed he cherished. I wanted to scream. I wanted to drive back immediately and confront him, but I couldn't move. My body was frozen in disbelief, betrayal wrapping itself around my chest like a vice. "She's so different from you," the woman said, her tone playful but knowing, like she was sharing a secret he had longed to tell. He laughed softly. "Exactly. That's why I feel alive with you. I can breathe. I can be me." I sank against the car door, my phone slipping slightly in my hand. Alive with her. I wasn't even a shadow in his happiness, just a routine he complained about. The city outside moved on, a horn, a distant call from a street vendor, a scooter weaving past. Normal life carried on. But inside me, a quiet storm raged. My trust had shattered in a single hour, and there was no going back to the world I thought I knew. I pressed the phone closer, straining to catch every word, knowing this recording, this unbearable truth, was about to change everything. I had been gripping the phone for what felt like hours, though in reality, only minutes had passed. My heart pounded like a drum against my ribs, each beat echoing the words I was hearing, words I wished I could unhear. "You know," his voice was low, deliberate, almost cold, "I never wanted a baby. I just went along with it because it was easier. Everyone expects me to be a good husband, a good father, but it's not who I am." I froze. The streetlights outside flickered across the dashboard, but I didn't notice them. My mind refused to process the gravity of what he was saying. Never wanted a baby? Every sleepless night, every cry that tore me from bed, every moment I had clung to him for comfort, he had been pretending all along. "She's amazing, but," he trailed off, laughter creeping in, a cruel, casual sound. "I can't feel the same way with her. I can't feel anything real. But with you, I feel alive. Free. I've been living a lie for months, just to keep up appearances. Can't you see?" Her soft, encouraging voice responded, but I didn't need to hear her. The pieces clicked together like a puzzle I had never wanted to complete. The missed calls, the late nights, the little inconsistencies I had dismissed, they weren't mistakes. They were part of a carefully constructed double life. I wanted to throw the phone, to scream until my voice joined the chaos of the city around me, the distant honk of a rickshaw, the faint clatter of a tea stall closing, but I couldn't. My fingers were numb, my chest tight. The betrayal wrapped around me like a suffocating shroud. "I never loved her," he continued, words sharp and unrepentant. "Not like I love you. Everything I've done for myself. The family, the house, the image, it was all a lie. I've been cheating, planning, waiting, and soon, I'll be free. Free from everything. Free." The word slammed into me like a fist. He wasn't just unfaithful, he had never intended to be a husband, a father. Our life, our baby, our love, none of it had meant what I thought it did. I sank back against the seat, the phone slipping slightly from my trembling hands. The faint glow of the monitor now felt like a cruel spotlight, illuminating a life I had believed was ours. I had trusted him completely, and in return, he had built a hidden world where I didn't exist, where my presence was a convenience, not love. Outside, the night hummed as usual, the city alive, oblivious. Inside me, everything had stopped. My world had collapsed in an instant. And yet, through the devastation, clarity emerged. This was no accident. This was his truth. This was the darkest secret I would ever know. I didn't drive straight home. Not yet. My hands were trembling on the steering wheel, but my mind was eerily calm. The chaos of what I had just heard, the betrayals, the lies, the words that cut sharper than any blade, played over and over in my head. I knew instinctively that rushing back would do nothing. Confrontation would only give him a chance to lie, to charm, to twist the truth once more. So I stayed put. I parked the car near a dimly lit street, the faint scent of wet asphalt lingering from the evening rain. Neon signs flickered from nearby shops, their colors reflecting off puddles, casting the night in shades of distorted reality. I pulled out my phone, opened the baby monitor, and let it record everything. Every word, every laugh, every confession, documented in real time. There was a strange power in it. I wasn't screaming. I wasn't crying. I wasn't reacting like a victim. I was listening, quietly, carefully, like a witness to someone else's life. And in that quiet, I began to understand. I understood why I had to stay silent. For myself. For the child asleep miles away, completely unaware of the storm swirling around us. For my future, which depended not on hasty confrontations, but on patience, evidence, and clarity. Reacting impulsively would only scatter the pieces of proof I now held in my hands, like sand slipping through fingers. The city around me continued its usual rhythm. A scooter buzzed past, weaving through traffic. Somewhere, a street vendor's bell jingled as he packed up his tea stall. The night was alive, indifferent to the betrayal unraveling on the other side of the screen. And that was a small comfort. I wasn't alone in facing reality. Reality existed, unflinching and undeniable, in the recording glowing softly in my palm. I whispered to myself, almost inaudibly, I see you. I know everything. The words weren't meant for him, they were meant for me, a small affirmation that I wasn't powerless. I could feel my chest tighten, a coil of fear, anger, and grief twisting together, but underneath it all, a hard kernel of strength began to grow. I stayed in the car for a long time, letting the recording capture every detail. And as I finally drove back, the city lights reflected on the windshield, I knew something had shifted inside me. The victim I had been was gone. In her place was someone sharper, calmer, more aware, someone who would act not out of emotion, but with purpose. The night was dark, but I was not lost. I returned home just as the city lights began to dim under the soft glow of dawn. The streets were quiet now, the early morning breeze carrying the faint scent of jasmine from a neighbor's balcony. I walked up the stairs slowly, my footsteps muted against the tiled corridor, and paused at the doorway to our apartment. The baby monitor still glowed softly on the table, the green light steady and reassuring. I picked it up and held it close, almost as if it were a small talisman. That little device, so ordinary, so overlooked, had given me something more than I ever imagined, proof. Proof of the lies, the betrayal, and the double life my husband had been living. Proof that freed me from doubt, from fear, from pretending everything was fine. I knelt by the crib and watched my baby sleep. His little fists twitched in dreams, soft whimpers escaping his lips. I brushed a stray lock of hair from his forehead, my hand trembling, and whispered, "Mommy's okay now." The words felt heavier than any I had ever spoken, heavy with sorrow, but also with newfound strength. I thought about the nights I had spent comforting him, the hours I had poured into this home, the life I had tried to build with someone I thought I knew. None of it was wasted. Every sleepless night, every tender moment, had been mine, and mine alone. The baby monitor had merely shone a light on what was hidden, and that light had guided me toward clarity. I set the monitor down and sat on the edge of the bed, letting the quiet of the apartment settle around me. For the first time, I allowed myself to feel the full weight of what had happened, not as a victim, but as someone who had survived. I could rebuild. I could protect my child. I could choose a future where deceit had no place. The sun was rising now, spilling pale gold across the room, illuminating the soft curve of my baby's cheek. I smiled faintly, a mixture of relief and sorrow washing over me. Truth finds its way, I whispered to the empty room, even in the smallest places, even through something as simple as a baby monitor. In that moment, I understood, strength isn't loud. It isn't immediate. Sometimes, it comes quietly, through observation, patience, and the courage to wait until the time is right. And as I watched my child sleep, I felt it settle deep inside me, a quiet, unshakable certainty that I would rise from this, stronger than before. The monitor blinked, the baby breathed, and I exhaled. For the first time in months, I felt a fragile, powerful kind of freedom.